Hello, and thank you all for attending today's presentation on automated subscription-based licensing with the SoftwareKey System, focusing with the Instant Plus licensing wizard and solo server. My name is Mike Wozniak, the CTO and one of the founders of Concept Software. Also helping me with the presentation today is Abram Pusada from the software development team. So what we're going to talk about today is automated subscription-based licensing. The key word is automated, where you can have a true set it and forget it type situation or system that as long as your customer's credit card on file is good and connected to the internet, the software will continue to run automatically. And if there's a problem, then the software will start warning the user that the software is going to expire. We're going to show both sides of the configuration, both the client side, the Instant Plus licensing wizard, and the server side being solo server. We're going to configure both a monthly and quarterly billing option so that the user can actually choose between one or the other. We'll simulate a customer placing a test order through the credit card, and then we're going to manage the subscription both through the administration interface, which would be what you would do, or what the customer could do through the self-service customer portal. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted to our website if you would like to review it again later. All of your microphones are muted. However, in the GoToWebinar control panel applet, you should see a question section. Feel free to type your question during the presentation and choose to send it. We'll be monitoring the questions along the way, responding to some directly and saving some for the end. Before we get started, I'd just like to take a quick poll to see who is in our audience today. If you are evaluating the product or if you are a current customer of ours, whether or not you are currently doing a subscription-based licensing model. So just choose one of the three options. Okay, great. Looks like a pretty good spread between all three options. So those of you who may be new, the SoftwareKey System for independent software vendors has been around since 1992. We have nearly 6,000 customers around the world. There are two main components which can be used separately, but they're designed to work great together. On the left side is the Instant Plus licensing wizard and the Protection Plus API. These are the clients that run inside of your software application, and this is where the subscription and licensing is enforced on each computer. Today's webinar is going to focus on the Instant Plus licensing wizard on the client side. This implements the most commonly used licensing business logic and user interface. It's designed to be very easy to use. If for some reason you hit a limitation of the wizard, you can implement custom licensing and subscription features with the API. On the right side, Solo Server is our flagship online license management system. It allows you to automate software activation, but continue to maintain control through electronic license management after the software's been activated. And there's an optional e-commerce module which automates the purchase and license delivery. So let's talk a little bit about what is a subscription. Subscription-based software is increasing in popularity. Some reputable software that I'm sure you've seen or used includes Microsoft Office. Microsoft is really pushing Office 365 as a subscription. Another example of a large company doing this is Adobe. They have a product called Creative Cloud. In fact, Adobe recently announced that they will be only offering subscription-based licenses of their Creative Cloud suite after the CS6 release. But even though these are large companies doing this, with the SoftwareKey System, any size company can reap the rewards of subscription-based software. There are many advantages to your customer, especially if your application has a high cost, because the large capital expenses can be converted to predictable monthly expenditures. And when they have a new employee that needs access to one of your applications, they can have an incremental increase in expense by extending an existing subscription rather than having to buy another license at a high cost. There are also many advantages to you as a software publisher. Lowering the cost means that you can lower the barrier to entry of your software into the marketplace. It provides a recurring revenue stream for you. And you can choose whether you want to bundle maintenance inside of your subscription so that as long as the customer has that recurring billing option going, they can access support resources that you may offer. So what happens when you want to sell your software online under a subscription? The first step is for the user to go to your website and choose a subscription term. As I mentioned, we're going to do both a monthly and a quarterly option. So your website offers these options. They choose which quantity or which term they want, as well as the quantity of how many licenses that they want. They can pay online with a credit card using the standard Solo Server shopping cart. Now keep in mind that part of the shopping cart process is a connection between the store and your bank, which is called the payment gateway. And Solo Server supports multiple different payment gateways. Not all of them support recurring billing. So if you're wanting to do this, contact us or verify that whichever payment gateway you have configured on your store does have compatibility with the subscription model. Once that process has been completed, they go through, enter their credit card information, the bank approves it. The customer will receive the license on a transaction receipt. And then they can activate this subscription on one or more computers. This is a time-limited license, meaning that if they do nothing, eventually that software will expire. Also, at the end of that shopping process, a recurring billing rule or recurring billing plan has been set up in Solo based upon the rules that you have configured, based upon the subscription term that they chose. We call this a payment plan where you define the actual rules. From this point forward, the subscription runs automatically. The user can choose to manage that themselves, or they can contact you and you can make changes or cancel the subscription. So I'm going to give a demo now of both sides of the process, both the client and server. I'm going to configure the Solo Server product catalog with the different term options, the payment plan. I'm also going to go through the Instant Plus wizard and focus mainly on the subscription options. I will place a test order through the shopping cart, and then we'll talk about how to manage the subscription afterwards. I first wanted to point out that in the Instant Plus manual, we have a new tutorial here under the tutorial section called Recurring Subscriptions with Solo Server. This tutorial outlines many of the steps that I'm covering here in the webinar, although the order of the steps may be slightly different, as I've chosen to optimize the process a bit for time. So the first, I'm going to log in here to the Solo Server account. I am configuring this catalog and this subscription under a generic test author account. You can contact us for information on how to log into this account in a read-only view so that you can come back and review my settings and test after the webinar. So I wanted to cover real quick setting up recommended roles and permissions for your account, or at least reviewing them or knowing that these exist here, since it does have some relevance. We recommend setting up roles or groups, we use the term interchangeably, for individuals or teams of individuals at your company. There are 3 different groups that are in every account that's created. You can change these, you can add them, and we recommend that you place people in these groups when you add them, and that way they will inherit all of the settings that are set up or configured in the group. So your default user account that is created is in the administrators group, so you should have full access. And I want to draw your attention to this payment plan section on the bottom right. This is where you can identify who is allowed to see the payment plans, configure them, edit them, as well as being notified when key events happen during the subscription process, such as when a subscription has been fulfilled or declined. So once that has been added, we're going to go to the product catalog now, and I'm going to add a product. I'm going to call this the Automated Subscription Webinar product. Can't really think of much of a better name, so that's just the name of the product. And I'm going to use all of the default values, except I am going to go down to the very bottom and I'm going to enable the test credit card number. That's so that we can place a simulated test order through the shopping cart. So I'll leave the default values for everything else. So the product catalog in Solo has a 2-level hierarchy. The product options are below a product, and they identify different flavors of the product. So this is where we're going to do the monthly and quarterly. But before we do the 2 subscriptions, I need to add a transaction fee item, and this is for the monthly subscription. So I'm going to call this the monthly, let's see, what do I want to call this? Monthly. So monthly subscription transaction, this is what's going to show up when the person has processed a monthly payment, or when the system has processed an automatic monthly payment for that next interval. I'm going to change the type to a transaction fee. The product option type tells Solo Server what type of item this is in the cart. And since this is not an activated product, it's just a transaction fee charged to their card, that's why I choose this option. I'm going to just leave the default price of $99. We don't really care what that is. And just keep in mind that you never want to use 0 for any products in the catalog, because there's a special reason that $0 items can go through the cart without payment, and we wouldn't want that to happen. I'm going to continue with most of the default values. I'm going to uncheck the For New Customers option. This will essentially hide this item from the customer-facing product catalog, because this is what is the automatic billing is going to process and kick in and add this into their history, so the customer is never going to be purchasing this particular item from the catalog on their own. I'm also going to uncheck the issue license. This will essentially hide the license ID that is assigned by the system for all license records or transactions from any of the customer-facing areas of Solo. So the transaction receipt, or if they're ever coming back and viewing their invoice online, they will not see that license ID number anywhere because I unchecked this. So I'm going to use the rest of the default values. Okay, and then this takes me back to the product automated subscription webinar. So I'm going to scroll down and I can see the product option below it. So there are two ways of accessing the product options. I can go to the product page and scroll down and see the options, or I can come back to the product list. So you get to the product page here, or I can get to the product option page here. I'm going to use this option at the top to duplicate this, and I'm going to make one called quarterly and again the price does not matter. The duplicate option is used to essentially make a copy of an existing product option into another one. And the reason why we're setting up two of these is mainly for reporting purposes. If you wanted to generate a list of how many people renewed their subscription or how many people had a monthly subscription renew in a given month versus quarterly, or if you want to look at trends over time, that's why we're setting up both a monthly and quarterly subscription transaction item in the catalog. The only thing that we do have to do after duplicating is going down and changing the enabling it. So I'm just enabled it because by definition a duplicated product option is disabled. So you'll notice that the for new customers is unchecked, the issue license is unchecked, and the transaction and service fee is the product option type because I duplicated it. Okay, so the third step is to set up the actual payment plan definitions. So if we come up to the storefront in Files, Payment Plans, I can go ahead and add a new one. I'm going to call this one bill $50 every month. So here's the scenario. I'm going to set up where the customer can buy the software $50 up front and then $50 every month after that. Or I'm going to give them a break if they choose to purchase quarterly. I'm going to charge them, instead of $150, I'm going to charge $125. So I'm going to set up the first option for billing every month. So I'm just giving this a friendly name to describe what actually is occurring here. So I'm going to do bill $50 every month. I'm going to have this be scheduled every 30 days. I'm going to specify 29 days to start. Now why 29? It's so that we attempt to charge their credit card before the license expires on the 30th day. Because you'll see in a moment we're going to specify 3 retries here. And that basically gives us a chance to have them correct the problem with their credit card before the software actually stops working. I'm going to specify unlimited recurring payments. If you wanted to make the system be 3 equal payments of $250, you could do that. Or if this is going to be a perpetual subscription that always renews, we're just going to put a -1. We're going to go ahead and specify $50 for the actual price because that's how much we want to charge. And we're not going to give them any type of a surcharge for going on this payment plan. But if you wanted to offer that 3 payments of $250 and you wanted to surcharge that because you're allowing them to finance, you can put that amount in here. So this is where we're going to choose that item that I chose or I created in the product catalog. The automated subscription webinar is the product, and then the monthly subscription transaction item is what's going to show up in their order history when this payment plan is processed. It's always good to have the customer be emailed when the payment plan or installment is processed. That way they're reminded of the charge, as well as they're given the opportunity to cancel the subscription if they'd like. Again, the 3 retries gives the customer 3 days to update their payment information before the software is disabled. Solo will notify administrators through those check boxes that we showed on the group or user configuration, so that if you wanted to proactively contact the customer on the 29th day when the software attempted to charge their card and failed. Sometimes people have promotions associated with their software sales online, and if you wanted to offer a discount or a priority code that offered a discount on the initial purchase but not on the payment plan, you could leave this persist discount information unchecked. If you wanted to have the discount codes or priority codes applied to every transaction, then you would check this option so that the priority code would be processed along with the payment plan purchase. And then I need to increment the license expiration days by 30 when the payment plan has successfully been processed. So this is what resets their subscription for another month. So then we have 3 options to control the text which was going to go on the bottom of the shopping cart. The first one is going to be shown at the bottom of the cart. At the very bottom of the cart, you'll see when I place the test order where this goes. You could put in any information you'd like, any types of terms and conditions, which the terms and conditions are really good to include here, or a link to the terms and conditions, so that in the event that a customer disputes a recurring subscription with the bank, you can provide the bank details on the terms and conditions on what they agreed to when they made their initial purchase online. The purchase license text is shown at the not at the very bottom of the shopping cart, but below the line item, meaning if they're purchasing multiple items in the cart, then this text will show up just below it, just below the line item itself. I just got to change these little quotes here. Okay, so this just tells the customer in red that you will be automatically billed $50 every month if your subscription expires and it's not renewed, or the subscription is canceled. Then you will no longer be able to access the software. You can put whatever text you would like here. Again, this just is setting an expectation for the customer on how this subscription is set up. The installment field text is information that's going to go on the bottom of the receipt for whenever the payment plan is processed. So you can be descriptive, as descriptive as you want, to remind the customer what this charge is for. Again, if you have this option checked, they're going to get a copy of their invoice for the monthly billing. along with whatever text you have specified here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. So I'm going to cheat now because we don't have a way of duplicating a product option. So I'm just going to use the browser's back button, and I'm going to make the changes to set up the quarterly billing. So as I said before, I'm going to give the customer a break by only charging $125 every quarter. I'm going to set up 90 days for how often this is going to run. I'm going to specify 89 days until the payment plan starts, and that's because they're going to make their first payment today when or the day that they enter their credit card into the system, and then this payment plan is not going to be processed until 89 days or a day before their subscription's about to expire. We're going to just leave everything else the same, except we're going to change the price to $125. We're going to change the product option that shows up on their line, the line item for their invoice that says quarterly subscription transaction. Again, you can pick whatever name you want there. And then we're going to increment the license 90 days. And then we're going to just change the text here to say I'm going to be billed every quarter. The rest of the information is the same. Okay? So I think I got those both set up. If I come back to my list, I can now see the bill $50 every month and bill $125 every quarter. Okay, so the fourth step is to set up the initial subscription product option. So if we go back to the product list, we have the two monthly transactions here. We're going to go ahead and add the license with monthly subscription. So that's just this basically says that what they're getting when this item is added into the catalog is the actual license to activate and use the software, as well as the automated monthly subscription afterwards. We're going to choose the Protection Plus activation code with days left product option. Again, this tells Solo what type of item is in the catalog, so it knows that this is an action. Unlike the transaction fee, this actually will allow the customer to activate the software. We're going to set the initial price to $50. We're going to specify the payment plan, bill $50 every month. So when Solo sees the customer add this particular product option into the shopping cart, it's going to know when the order is processed to kick off a schedule of a recurring billing. We are going to leave the 4 new customers checked. You'll see in a moment this will allow it to be displayed on the public-facing catalog. We are going to leave the issue license checked so that the license ID is displayed on the order confirmation page. And then here is where we're going to specify the trigger code information for Instant Plus. In Instant Plus, trigger code number 11 is predefined as a subscription or a temporary or a time-limited license. In the Instant Plus manual, it lists all of the options for different trigger codes, what they mean, but to use the Instant Plus wizard, we need to specify number 11. Also part of the trigger code, which a trigger code is really just an activation code. We call it a trigger code because it's meant to trigger or change the state of an application from one to another. It can be not just activating the software, it could be deactivating the software, it could be changing the state of the software, meaning adding modules, removing modules, adding network seats, etc. So that's why we call it a trigger code. And there are two values that are used to randomize the trigger code algorithm on a company by company and product by product basis. So the trigger code number is just a randomized number. The system automatically randomized that for us. And then the reg key 2 seed is also a random number, but this one has to be less than 255. This information will be synced or synchronized with Instant Plus, as you'll see when I go through the wizard. So the next step here is to specify a days to download value of 30. This is because we're doing a monthly subscription. So when that license is added, it's going to take today's date. It's going to add 30 days to it. And because I'm using trigger code number 11, along with the activation code with days left, that's what makes everything a temporary license that activates for 30 days. I'm going to leave everything else to the default. I'm going to scroll back down and I'm going to choose the license with monthly subscription. This is the one I just created, and I'm going to duplicate this to license with quarterly subscription, $125. And then since I duplicated, it's going to, I have to change the price is already here, $125. I have to change the payment plan to bill $125 every quarter. For new customers is checked. Issue license is checked. We're still going to use trigger code 11. Now notice these are the same values. That's one of the main reasons why the duplicate feature is very useful. Whenever you need to add one or more versions of the software into or different variations of the software, the duplicate feature is going to keep the trigger code number, the trigger code seed information the same, which is important when you're protecting an application with different version types. We're going to specify 90 days instead of 30. And then I have to enable this product option. Okay? So the next step here is I'm going to get the ordering URL. I'm going to choose our advanced or automated subscription webinar, and I'm going to copy this link. This is the solo shopping cart has several different pages, catalog pages that can be used to display the information to the customer to purchase. You don't need to use our catalog pages, but you can if you want. This would be the link that I would display or I would put on a Buy Now button that was on our website. And you could either put many options for how you want to present it to the user. This is just one option. So you can see now we're in a store to purchase, and I'm given the option for the monthly or the quarterly subscription. Okay, so we'll come back to this, and I'm copying this link to my clipboard because we're going to need it here shortly. So let's jump from Solo Server to the Instant Plus licensing wizard. As I mentioned before, it's designed to be a quick and easy use system for designing and or for adding licensing to an existing application. It is typically used by a developer, the person who is designing and packaging your software. All of the settings in here are stored in a project file, which ends in a .ipp. It's very important to keep these project files in a safe location. There is a separate webinar available on our website where we go through all of the settings in the wizard. I'm going to actually just jump through. I'm just going to go directly to the important stuff specifically about the subscription-based licensing. So my first option here is I'm going to use Instant Plus with Solo Server. I'm going to use an existing product on Solo. This is where it's going to download that product catalog from your account. And I think for some reason I may need to re-log in to see that new product. Oops. Okay, so it re-downloaded the list of products and product options, and I do see both. These two are only used during the payment plan, so we're going to definitely ignore those. These are the ones that include both the license along with the monthly subscription. So my first question is, which one do I pick? As long as you, the answer is it doesn't matter. As long as you pick one that has been duplicated, they're going to have the same trigger code information available. Choosing either one of these is going to download that trigger code seed information in the RegKey2 seed, and that's really all I'm doing with this selecting of the product process. Okay. So I am going to go through and choose the default values, except for I'm going to paste in that shopping cart link to allow the user to choose either the monthly or quarterly subscription. And I'm going to go all the way to the allow periodic expiration, leaving the defaults for everything else. So I want to check this, begin warning the user 0 days before, and I'm going to give them a 3-day grace period. This will keep the application silent until they get into the warning period. Now, since we're charging the credit card 29 days before or a day before the product expires, if their credit card is still valid, it's going to update the expiration date in Solo because we chose that option to increment the expiration date, and I'm going to have Instant Plus check Solo for a new expiration date during the warning period. So this is where the set it and forget it system comes into play. As long as their credit card is valid, then the credit card will be charged, the date's going to be incremented, Instant Plus is going to start talking to Solo to see if that date's been incremented, and if for some reason it's not, then the user will start to see a message. And you can control the message that the user sees. And I'm going to paste in a message here. So when they get into the warning period, it's going to display a message telling them that the subscription is going to expire in blank number of days. Please check that your payment information is up to date. You can change that text to whatever you want. This message here is going to be displayed after the grace days have lapsed, meaning they've seen this message for 3 days and then the software will just stop working with this message here. Okay, so there are 2 ways to use the Instant Plus wizard. The injection process works with Win32 PE files, which are like Visual Basic 6, Visual C++, and several other EXE formats that are not specifically non.NET executables, and some others have incompatibilities. Or if you're using one of those, if you're programming in .NET, or you happen to be using another compiler that we're not compatible with, you can still get all of the benefits of the Instant Plus wizard and the subscription-based licensing with any language which can call DLLs. The same functionality is available for both. Now I happen to have a Visual C++ Hello World application here. If I just launch it, it comes up and displays this wonderful message. And so let's just go ahead and inject it. So I'm going to choose the folder where this is located. And then I'm going to put the output folder in one folder below it. Okay. And I'm going to just use the default values, but the other webinar, again, we talk about all of these options, plus all of the options are defined or documented here on the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and this is where I get prompted to save the settings to this IPP file. Again, this is what you want to keep safe. This is going to memorize all of the settings that we went through in the wizard. I'm not going to save it here. So once we go into the output folder here, now we have the protected version of the EXE. This is what you're going to include in your installer. Where you used to be using the unprotected version, you're going to use the protected version. Now every time that you inject your application, the Instant Plus wizard, the GUI, is going to reset your license back to a trial period. Meaning, if you reprotect an application and activate it and reprotect it, it's going to reset it back to an unactivated state because the system assumes that you're going to want to test from an unactivated state. However, if you use the same IPP file, your users will not need to reactivate. As long as the settings remain the same and you use that same IPP file, they would be able to install a new version of your software without needing to reactivate. Now, it's always good to test all scenarios of your protected application. Virtual machine host software such as VirtualBox are free. You can test fresh operating systems that have never had your software. You can use the snapshotting features to reset the operating system back to uninstalled state so that you can test all scenarios. You can go from an older version to a new version. You just want to make sure that all scenarios of what your customers may do have been tested by your team to make sure that the settings that you've chosen here reflect what your desired result is. By default, I also want to point out we store licensing information in a shared secure location so that when a customer activate or when you have multiple users using the same executable under multiple logins, we share that information, but in order to write that information to shared locations starting with Windows Vista and higher, it is necessary to make a very simple change to your installer to install the application and call the executable with a command line switch to essentially establish the permissions so that all users can run and activate the software without having any permissions issues. So because of that, just to save time for this demo, I'm going to run this application as administrator once. It does essentially the same thing as making an installer and using that command line switch. In the latest version of Instant Plus, there is the option of not requiring the administrator permissions, but that means that every user that logs into that particular computer will need to activate the software. Sometimes our customers want that. Sometimes our customers want to activate the PC for all users. So now I'm looking at the Instant Plus protected application. This is the default screen without any customizations. You can change some of the text here. You can put your logo here on the left, and you can turn on or off several of these options based upon your business needs. So I'm going to go ahead. The user by default is given the option to purchase online, to activate, or to evaluate. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to close this tab, and I'm going to go back to the protected application, and I'm going to choose the option to purchase. And again, I'm taken right back to that same screen. This is the URL that we pasted into the purchase link in the Instant Plus wizard. So I'm going to choose the monthly subscription, and I'm going to go through the standard shopping cart. Now, note that those two messages that we programmed in the payment plan show up here. So we've got that red message saying you're essentially agreeing to be billed $50 every month, and then there's the other text that shows up at the bottom basically telling them to contact you if there's any billing questions. So I'm going to go through the checkout process. I already have an account here that's been set up. Oops. And I'm going to go through and choose the option for credit card. And then you can follow the instructions for the in the manual that talk about how to use the test credit card number. Once it has been enabled on your product, that was the checkbox, the use test credit card number flag that we set on the product. And I also have to be logged into the administrator interface here in order for this to work. If you try to make a purchase while your account if you're evaluating our system, you have to be logged in to go through the shopping cart. And if you've activated an account with us, you can still continue to use the test credit card number if you want to go through the process, but you have to be logged in. That's just a security feature to prevent someone who knows that number to buying one of your products. Okay, so I see the final confirmation here, and I will place the order. The customer is going to see the transaction receipt. This information is also sent to them by email. So the system, because I have the issue license box checked, is going to have the license ID here. So I can come back to the protected application. I can choose to activate online. I can paste in that ID. And now the Hello World application comes up. And if I go here and run the application another time, you'll notice I did not need to run it as an administrator the second time because the permissions were already established. And then the application just runs without prompting me. So if I come back and I look at my test account, you'll see my purchase here for $50. So we took, this is the license that is used to activate. And when the shopping cart was completed, Solo took the information that was on the payment plan definition and set up what we call a payment plan instance. This is a free-running subscription process. So we can see here all of the payment plans that are associated with this customer's account. We just have the one. We can disable it here, or if we click on it, we can view the details. The most important information here is to see when the next payment is going to run. So essentially, 29 days from today is when this payment plan is going to run. So if I wanted to come here and change any of the parameters, change the date, change the amount, I can do that. I can also view the history, so I can see a running total of all invoices that were processed under this payment plan. And I can also come here and disable it. And when I disable it, I can put some notes in here, such as maybe the customer called or emailed asking us to disable the payment plan. So the other thing I wanted to show is the customer portal to be able to manage the license on their own. So on our website, we have a link at the top here called Customer Login. And this is where I can give the user the ability of logging into the portal. I'm already logged in here. You can brand the portal to make it look like your website, just like the shopping cart can be done the same. I did not point that out, but you can customize the look and feel of the shopping cart to match your website. So if I come here, this is where the customer can see their purchases. They can see all of the licenses that they have and download software, purchase renewals, upgrades, etc. But this is what I really want to focus on. This basically shows that on June 12th, my credit card ending in 3232 is going to be charged $50. I can edit this, and I can change what credit card number is used, or I can cancel it. And of course, I am warned that if I cancel it, the software may cease to operate. So, I know we're getting close to the end of what we promised, so I wanted to just kind of talk about, what did we talk about today? The SoftwareKey system has both the client tools and the server tools for a truly automated set it and forget it subscription-based licensing. The Instant Plus has thousands of lines of code implementing the most commonly requested licensing business logic and user interface, which can be implemented in most desktop applications with little or no source code changes. It's great for rapid prototyping and experimentation with the SoftwareKey system. However, if for some reason it doesn't fit your needs, we have a full API that can be used for advanced business logic implementation. Our flagship Solo server has advanced tools to see and manage customer licenses and subscriptions. We did cover a lot of ground, so a recorded webinar will be posted on our webinars page later. So we're at the end of what we promised, but I can stick around here if there are any questions about the webinar. So we have one question here of what happens if the user chooses a quantity greater than 1. So what happens in that case, very good question, is that multiple license records will be created in their catalog as well as multiple payment plans. And the reason why we do that, or multiple payment plan instances, the reason why we do that is so that the user can change or cancel one but leave the others remaining. Another question that can the user change the license quantity through the portal? Today, no, because that actually is very tricky as far as being able to provide enough flexibility to software publishers of what you want or not want the customer to be able to do. However, the administrator can change the payment plan instance amount or parameters or license parameters at any time. And then that would apply for any future transactions.
Okay, good one we have here is it possible to charge only at the first of the month or quarter, etc., not only after a specified number of days?
Yes, you can do that under the payment plan settings. You can specify a day of the month, but the challenge with doing this is when you are using Instant Plus, it is going to be looking to increment the number of days when this is processed. So let's say, for example, so if we come here and we want to increment by 30 or 90 days when the payment plan is processed, when you do it on the day of the month, if let's say the customer purchases on the 25th and you want to bill on the 5th, that makes things get out of skew. So in that case, special attention would need to be made so that the customer is able to go on a special day of the month. So you may be possible if you manually adjust the payment plan instance and the license instance after that customer purchases the first time. But if you wanted that to be automated, then you would want to use a scheduled recurrence type. Anything else? Okay, great. Requests for any future webinar topics that will help you understand and make better use of the SoftwareKey system. Feel free to send us an email or send any requests or feedback to support@softwarekey.com. And for those of you that are attending live, we'd love for you to answer one question at the end of the webinar. Thanks again.